Hi everyone, my name is Melissa, owner of the Wholesome Haven, a laser crafting company. In 2019, I bought my first Cricut and it sat in the box for a whole year. So if that is you, I completely feel your pain. The Cricut can be very scary, but go ahead and get that out of the box because we're gonna go over some materials, tools, and basic vocabulary to get you on your Cricut crafting journey. And make sure you stick around to the end because I'm gonna go over my favorite tools, my favorite brands, and my personal favorite Cricut machine. Okay everyone, so first I want to go ahead and go over all of the tools that you see here and a couple that you don't. Depending on how you use your Cricut, you may or may not need all, some, or most of these items, but I'm going to go ahead and go through all of them and you can decide what you need for yourself. The first thing I want to go over is the mats. The standard grip is going to be, the green one here is the standard grip. It's going to be your all-purpose mat. You're going to use it for your HTV, well most of your HTVs, most of your vinyls. So this is the one that if you don't have any other ones, definitely use this. If you're going to use a lot of fabric, then go ahead and get this pink one as well. So the pink one, as you can see, it's literally never been used. So using this one if you have a lot of like fabric projects. And this is the light grip, less tacky. It is used for, I actually turned this around and I wrote it on the back just so that I never had a question. I like to write it on the back of the light one because I never remember what goes on light, what goes on the standard grip. So it's gonna be light cardstock, printer paper, any thin scrapbook paper or wrapping paper. So the theme here is really any thin, lightweight papers. If you do put it on the standard grip, what's gonna happen is you're gonna tear off the back of the paper. So even if you use your tools to get the paper up, you may be able to save some of it, but you're gonna end up with pieces of paper all over this and you're gonna ruin the back of your project. So if you're not gluing it to anything, I would definitely just go with the lightweight. I've done it many times, but normally I'm gluing paper to something. But if you're making cards, you're doing a lot of cards and you're doing some, maybe like, washi tape designs, go ahead and use your light grip mat. A tip that I have when using your mats is when you're peeling your design off of your mat, don't peel it design up, turn it over, and then peel it this way. Okay, it just helps to not bend your design at all. Okay, so the next most important tool is going to be your weeding tool. So there are so many different brands that you can get. Cricut is not your only brand. So that is very important. I am not here for sponsorships. I am here to be real and to help you. I don't love Cricut materials. I love Cricut machines. I don't love Cricut materials, and I'll go more into that a little bit later. So this is gonna be your Cricut weeding tool. I used this for years. It will absolutely do the job. I love it. You can actually open up the end here, and as you're weeding, you can put little scraps in there, and then you can actually use your weeding tool, go in there, get it out, and then clean it. My favorite weeding tool, I didn't know that I didn't like the Cricut weeding tool until I used the HTV Ront. I've said in a previous video, if you've seen it before, my brain always reads it HTV Ront, and I know that's not it, but it's they send this when you order from them anyway. They usually send a free one, but I love this one, and let me show you why. So if you look at these two weeding tips, the Cricut one is a little bit more curved, and the HTV Ront one is a little bit more, less angled. And what I've noticed with this is it's actually a lot easier on my wrist. If I'm doing a lot of weeding, I can go a lot faster and a lot longer with this weeding tool, and this one I can feel that my hand actually starts to fatigue because that minor angle change, as you can see, this one just has a little bit less of an angle, so it points outward a little bit more, which just ultimately means I have to bend my wrist a little bit less, versus with this one. This is obviously a hyper exaggeration, but I like the HTV Ront. Oh my goodness. I told you I said HTV Ront in my head. The HTV Ront one I like a lot better. This one, again, I used this for years and I was very happy with it. It's not that I don't like it. I do still use it sometimes. But this one I realized was actually a lot more comfortable for me. And I don't know, maybe if it's for preference, but I noticed it was a lot easier on my wrist because I do this a lot. So the next important tool, I'm gonna move these over here because we've already gone over them. One of my favorite tools is the brayer tool. So this is called a brayer, B-R-A-Y-E-R. And when you put your vinyl, HTV, your material down on your mat, use your brayer to go from one side to the other and smush it down. My husband calls it the smusher. Go ahead and use the brayer to really get that material stuck down. Because a couple things are gonna happen as your mats start to get less tacky. Your material's not gonna stick. And if you're doing large, intricate cuts, or you're doing a design with a lot of cuts, a lot of detail, then it's going to be off in some places. The material might move ever so slightly where it might not ruin your design, but you'll still have maybe some edges that are uneven. That's possible. So with the brayer, it helps really to adhere it to the whole mat, you know, in all of its spaces. So I think the brayer is a very, very worth it tool. So the next tool that we're gonna go over is the spatula. I actually use this to open up paint cans and stain cans. I don't do a lot of fabric, so if you do fabric or cardstock, this is really helpful for lifting off fabric and cardstock. For me, it's basically acted as a flathead screwdriver because I don't have one in my office. So that's why it's all bent and you can actually see there's stain all over it because I use it to open paint cans and stain cans. The next item is going to be the Cricut scissors. These are a very small precision tip scissor. I like these. They're very good. They've actually lasted me a really long time. These are the same ones from my original pack. I never got another one. I don't use this to cut my vinyl. I wouldn't personally do sticky stuff with these. I would have a sticky stuff special set of scissors if I were you. You can use it, but because these are precision scissors, I don't like to use it for that. I like to use these for very smaller cuts for things that I need. The X-Acto knife is exactly that. It is just a sharp pointed exact knife. It's very good if you want to fix things. If there's some mistakes, like let's say if your HTV or your vinyl didn't cut all the way through, you can absolutely use this to fix it. I'm gonna link a video for you that you can go and watch where I was able to use this knife to save a project and I didn't have to recut anything. And I love that these are just super helpful. I have also the replacement heads for them because I actually use this very, very frequently for a lot of different things, both Cricut and in my laser crafting company. So if you use these, again, very inexpensive. It takes me a long time to actually go through one of the blades, but definitely think about getting that. The next tool is going to be the Cricut sliding blade thing. I used this for years, maybe 2 to 3 years before I realized that it opens and you can use this. I love cutting with this. This is really one of my favorite things. It makes things so simple and it's super easy. The numbers here are very easy to read, and if you make sure that you're just aligned with this lip right here and here, you know that your item is going to cut straight, your material is going to cut straight. I love that about this. It does only go up to 16 inches. So the Cricut mats will go up to 24 inches. And if you have a 24-inch mat, then what you're gonna need to get is a rotary tool. Oh, goodness gracious, is a rotary tool. This I use on my self-healing cutting mat. I'll measure it on my self-healing cutting mat, and then I will just take a ruler and I will just cut it right up. So this is really helpful. This takes a little bit longer to cut than the sliding cut thing does, but it's still very helpful to ensure that you're getting those accurate cuts and not wasting any material. The last thing is going to be the scraper tool. The scraper tool is very important. You should get one with your Cricut. If not, they're very inexpensive. This is not Cricut brand. This came in a pack of 2 on Amazon for maybe $6 or $7. It does have a felt end. I pulled that off because I didn't need it, but the scraper tool is going to be used to put on your transfer tape. We'll go over that in a little bit, but this is definitely something that you need. So if you have nothing else, the things that you need are going to be a Cricut mat, weeding tool, and a scraper. If you have nothing else, this is what you need to get started as far as tools are concerned. Now, very quickly, I want to go over some of the blades. These are the blades that I have, and you're probably wondering why I have a ball of aluminum that's coming. So you have a standard blade, and if I depress this little tab on the end, okay, the blade comes out and the blade goes back in. As you can see, there is vinyl stuck to the end, because that'll happen sometimes if you cut intricate cuts. So the vinyl gets stuck on the end, and put it into your aluminum foil, and the vinyl is gone. So please note that the aluminum foil does not clean or sharpen, it doesn't sharpen your blade, it will only clean your blade. All it does is removes those tiny little baby pieces of vinyl that could possibly affect your next cut. All it's going to do is remove that vinyl, and maybe just some of the sticky, if there's any sticky residue left over from a vinyl, it'll just remove that. It's not sharpening it. So if your blade is dull, you need to switch it out. I clean this after every intricate cut, or at least every 5 cuts. The next type of Cricut blade is going to be the deep blade. As you'll see, it's actually already sticking out a little bit more than the regular fine point blade. So the regular fine point blade just sticks out this little bit, and the black one is a deep point blade. This one's just for thicker materials. If you're doing like magnets or chipboard or thick cardstock, foam, if you're doing any like heavier duty fabrics, this will actually cut into the material a little bit better. So if you are doing things like that, then maybe this one is for you, the deep point blade. The next blade is going to be the knife blade. This is going to be good for balsa wood, some thinner balsa wood, if you're doing chipboard, leather, craft foam, anything that's like thicker and needs to actually be cut. Please note, if you have a maker and you plan on using balsa wood, you're going to have to do anywhere from like 19 to like 32 passes. So balsa wood is definitely cuttable, but make sure that you have the time. The last blade that I have is the rotary blade, and as you can see, this just has a little pizza cutter type blade on it, and this helps with delicate materials if you're cutting like cotton or silk, because if you use the fine point blade for it, the fine point blade is going to insert and drag to cut, whereas the rotary blade is going to wheel around it, and it's a lot easier and gentler on delicate materials. So if you're doing a lot of like decorative fabric, then I would absolutely think about getting the rotary tool. Okay, in this next part, we're gonna go ahead and go over the types of materials. So you can do different things with the Maker than you can do with the Explorer, and that you can do with the Joy. So make sure that you check your machine to see that what you can and can't use with it. So I wanna go over the vinyls first. So first, you have rolls and sheets. Your sheet is usually a 12 by 12, sometimes could be an 8 by 12, but it's usually a 12 by 12 sheet. But if you know you're only gonna need a little bit, the 12 by 12 makes it super convenient to only grab a small piece. And that's what I love about the vinyl and the iron-on that we'll get to in just a moment, is that you can buy a little bit or a lot. So with buying the rolls, vinyl does expire in 2 years. Does that mean that you can't use it? No. I wouldn't sell anything that I use after 2 years. And the reason is because you can't guarantee the adhesion is going to be as it is described. So if I'm using old vinyl, then I can maybe anticipate that it will peel up a little bit sooner than it would have been. And it's also so hard to weed if it is expired. Doesn't make it impossible, it doesn't make it not usable. I have plenty of vinyl that I have that I know is expired and I still use it. Doesn't make it not usable. I'm just telling you the information and you do with it what you will. So test your materials every time, because these are two different brands, so they might cut differently. They might not both love the vinyl setting. So this is going to be HTV / iron-on. Iron-on is what Cricut calls their HTV, and HTV stands for heat transfer vinyl. So that's gonna be stuff that you see mostly people put onto shirts or pillows, and that's this. So these are two different kinds. This is gonna be a glitter HTV, and make sure that you click the right setting, and always, always, always test before you do a cut. Do not trust that the Cricut presets are always going to work with your material because there are a lot of variables when it comes to how you lay something down on your mat, what brand you have, the machine you have, with what Cricut says will work. So I always do a star. I always test with a star because a circle is very easy to cut, whereas a star has corners and movement. So with that, the star will help you tell if you're gonna be able to cut all the way through or not. So glitter is different than regular HTV or iron-on. You do need to do a different setting. So this is a patterned HTV. Okay, so this one's called Sprinkles. I got it from Expressions Vinyl. And this is tough because you can see on this one, very shiny, you can see that this is called the carrier sheet. So I'm gonna use this one to show you a little bit better because you can see this is super shiny on this side. This is the carrier sheet. It is dull on this side. This is the actual material that essentially melts into your shirt, onto your shirt. HTV is a surface level material. It will only adhere on top of the shirt, and we'll get to other materials that you can use as well. HTV is super, super versatile. I love it. Your mind's ability to think up ideas is your limitation, and it's very overwhelming. There's so many different kinds. You can get tons of different kinds of HTV and iron-on. So the only thing is make sure that you follow the instructions and you always mirror your designs. I'm not gonna get too far into that, but make sure that you mirror your designs and make sure that you figure out which way is the, or which side is the carrier sheet, because this one is very, very glossy, so it's really obvious. This one is not as glossy, and it's white on the back. So normally the design will just be a little bit subdued, and you can tell which one's the back, but this is just white. So you can't really tell, but this is the carrier sheet, and it's a lot thinner. So again, make sure that you're testing your materials. Okay, the next thing I want to go over is transfer tapes. Transfer tapes are the same as the vinyl. There's so many different brands, there's so many different types. So this one is just a regular old, there's no lines, no nothing. It's just it's actually textured, and it works really well. I like this one. And then you have the lined one. I use these when I sell decals. If I make decals to sell, I'll use this one, and I will use parchment paper to make sure that it's aligned correctly. So what I do is I have this piece of parchment paper that sits behind my desk, and when you have transfer tape, if you cut your piece of transfer tape and then you peel it off and you put it on the parchment paper with just a little bit sticking out, you can align your design, see through it on the parchment paper. Don't let your exposed bit touch, but you can see it, and then align it, stick down the part that's exposed, and then you can peel up this back part, remove your parchment paper, and then stick down the rest. But that is a very helpful tool when using the lines, because if you use lined transfer tape and you don't align it, then it makes it really confusing when you're trying to align it, because your brain wants to look at the lines. And if you're gonna sell decals and you use lined transfer tape, then you could potentially be confusing the customer as well. They're really mostly the same. You do have strong grip transfer tape that you'll use for some glitter vinyls. Not all of them need it, but some of them need strong grip transfer tape. If you buy Cricut's, what I love about theirs is they include the strong grip transfer tape in the roll of glitter vinyl, and I think that's really, really helpful and convenient. I think that's wonderful that they do that. And lastly, with transfer tape, it is actually reusable. You can absolutely save it for later, just put it right back on its backer, and you can save it and maybe use it another 2 to 4 times depending on what it is. So that's up to you. Some people like to save materials a lot more than others, and I respect whatever your choice is. I like to save mine. I like to try not to waste any material. Okay, the last thing I wanted to go over was just some other materials that you can use on your machine. So just going this way, I have this Smart Label. It's writable, removable. You just use it like you would any other, like maybe chalkboard label. So this is very versatile for making some labels for, say, bins that may not be always Legos, or you may not always have towels in that bin. So if you want to use a smart label, you can absolutely do those and cut it into whatever shapes you wanted. So super versatile for that. And next you have printable vinyl. I love printable vinyl because I love how vinyl is like a very durable sticker. But I personally hate doing print and cut. If you're not familiar with print and cut, it's where you send an item to your printer and then your printer creates lines that your Cricut then reads to cut around the design. I personally don't like doing print and cut. I've never had a lot of projects with that, but I love doing printable vinyl because I can just print it out and purposely make it a circle or square, and I can just make a very small line where I can just cut it myself. So I like to do those. I don't do print and cut for anything that I sell, so that's very handy for me. I actually like just doing it to make decals myself. Next is going to be Cricut stencil material. I actually do like the Cricut material, so it's kind of sticky, and I think that's super helpful. So these are actually reusable as well. Not a lot. You can't use it indefinitely, but you can definitely reuse them depending on how well you take care of them. So you can make a stencil for like Christmas if you wanted to batch make maybe a Christmas sign and spray paint it. That's super simple, but I love it. I'm definitely going to be doing a Cricut stencil tutorial here in a little bit, so make sure that you like, subscribe to the channel, because I'm going to be using this stencil material in some of my fall crafts, and I'm really excited about it. We're going to be making some, spoiler alert, coffins. Okay, the next item is going to be puff vinyl. This is still relatively new to the crafter space. It's a little bit finicky, but what I love about Expressions vinyl is they include the instructions for puff vinyl, and I thought that was really helpful, and I actually leave the instructions in it because a lot of it looks the same, and it helps me to know that this is puff vinyl. So what this does is when you press it, it's a heat transfer vinyl, so when you press it and when the heat is applied, it actually puffs up and it will be a little more three-dimensional. So these two are somewhat similar. This is called sublimation paper, so it's an ink transfer sheet. So this is going to be used with heat. So it's on a carrier sheet on the back, and I'll put it through my Cricut. I will cut my design however I want it to be, and then I will go ahead and sublimate it onto a substrate. For example, I have these Cricut coasters. These are sublimation coasters. Sublimation is taking ink and putting it into a material, whereas heat transfer vinyl / iron-on sits on top of your shirt. The sublimation will actually change the color of the fibers in the shirt. So it will wear with the fibers in the shirt. For example, if you were to buy a shirt from anywhere else, the design will ultimately fade over time. Same thing with the sublimation. It lasts a lot longer, and HTV will start to peel over time, whereas the sublimation will just wear with the shirt. The infusible ink is Cricut's version of sublimation paper, sublimation designs. So the same way that iron-on is Cricut's version of HTV, infusible ink is Cricut's version of sublimation. So I would cut this design out, and then I would put it on here, and I would press with heat for the desired amount of time, and then I would remove. Same thing with this infusible ink. I would cut my design, press, heat, same thing. So this is a game changer. You can purchase so many different designs. I have so many of these, and then I just use them for different things. And this one I'm gonna make my son a little baby bear, and I'm gonna make me a mama bear shirt for Christmas. Again, just all the spoilers in this YouTube. So make sure you subscribe if you wanna see me make these shirts for me and my son for Christmas. It's gonna be so cute. This is leather. It's a very thin leather, and that's something I'm gonna use the knife blade for. So this is cool because I can make keychains. So I make little keychains out of the leather, and then what I do is I use HTV to put a little design on it. So it's kind of a multi-step, a little more advanced of a Cricut craft. And again, subscribe, because that is what this is for. This is going to be used to make a keychain in that exact same process of making the keychain with my Cricut Maker and then using HTV to put a little design on that. So that's going to be so much fun. That's what these are all used for. Actually, lastly, there is party foil. So as you can see, this is a little pack. There's different types of party foil. These are super good for, as you can see on the photo, it is like party streamers with little like stars and stuff on them. So also, if this is something that you do, something that you're into, like if you do a lot of parties or party planning, absolutely party foil is for you. Okay, lastly, I'm just gonna go over what my favorite Cricut machine is and what my favorite materials are. So my favorite Cricut machine is actually the Cricut Maker, the regular one, not the 3. I do a lot of text in my cuts. So if you have a lot of serif fonts, so like a Times New Roman that has the little ticks, you know, if you have like the letter T, it's got like little 2 ticks at the top of the T. So if you have serifs in your fonts, like the Cricut Maker 3 will kind of rip those up a lot, or it'll catch them and not cut it all the way, and it'll drag a letter around your whole design. Because it's fast. So the Cricut Maker 3 is very fast. So if I'm doing very vague shapes and general shapes, the Cricut Maker 3 is amazing because it is a lot quicker, but the Cricut Maker is so much better in intricate cuts because it's a little bit slower. And I've never really noticed that the Maker was too slow. So I love the Maker, the regular one, because I do cut leather as well, and I don't think you can cut leather on the Explorer, but I like to cut leather. And I have cut some wood projects, but now that I own a laser, I don't use my Cricut for wood. It wasn't the most efficient way to do it, but it's definitely doable. And I get my vinyl from Expressions Vinyl. Especially around the holidays, I go absolutely bananas. But more importantly, you do whatever you feel is best. My crafts are not going to be the same as your crafts. I use the Cricut to enhance my small business. So if that's not something that you're doing, then your favorite tools, your favorite materials might be different than mine. And I just really hope that you find your love for Cricut and know that your mind is your only limitation. So if you enjoyed this video, please make sure that you like. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave them in the comments. If you also had your Cricut in the box for more than, let's say, 3 months, go ahead and type in the comments below that you are with me. Let me know that you also left it in the box taunting you for an extended amount of time, because like I said, mine was in the box for a year, so I totally get it. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will see you in the next video.